Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Claudia Trivelas, and Claudia, welcome back to High Road to Humanity.
Thanks, Nancy. It's so good to see you, as always.
It's good to see you too. It's October 2022, and we're going
It's October, and this is October, November, like key months of 2022, like very powerful months. There's a lot going on. So I'm excited to be talking about the energies in October.
Well, I'm excited because September was like really rough.
I know. And September was the buildup to October. So
go for it. I was going to read a little bit of your bio. Hey, you guys, if you don't know about Claudia, I just want to just really briefly. She's been drawn to astrology since she was a teenager. She says she used to babysit and go down to get the money and then go down to the F.W. Woolworths and the local 5 and 10 store, and she would buy astrology books. And I think a lot of us did that when we were younger. That really hit home. But she has a metaphysical approach to astrology, and it's resonated with her. And she graduated from Boston University as a psychology major with a mathematics minor. It's a perfect combination for a student of astrology. And throughout the decades, she's pursued studies in Western Vedic and Uranian astrology, metaphysics, metaphysical cosmobiology. As society continues to evolve and transform, she has pursued her studies in astrology, and she does this thing called human design, and maybe she'll talk a little bit about it today. But she comes every month, and I'm so grateful that you come onto the high road and talk to us about what's going on with the planets. Her website is discoveryourimprint.com. Claudia, talk a little bit about, before we get into it, if you don't mind, about human design, if people don't know what that is.
So human design, I feel, is a perfect supplement to astrology. It involves astrology. So human design is based, as astrology is, on the date, time, and place of birth. So it uses astrology, but it's also connected to the I Ching. So the ancient, science of the I Ching, which uses the I Ching has 64 hexagrams, and 64 is a magical number in terms of genes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so it's bringing it down into the genetic level, but it's also bringing it to the point of evolution. And it's a more contemplative study at one level. Amidst the details of it, because it's looking at the shadow, but it's also looking at the greatest opportunity between any of the placements of the planets in any of these 64 hexagrams of the I Ching that form its own chart. That's called a human design chart, which also includes the chakra system. So I feel it's a current study, a current science for discovering one's imprint, which is what my brand is called, Discover Your Imprint.
Yeah. So if you guys are reading, I mean, you can just go to your website, and that's how they book with you. Just go to discoveryourimprint.com.
That has my contact information, and then they can contact me. So the next, human design has been around for about 20, 30 years, but there's a takeoff on that called the Gene Keys, which is based on human design. So again, it's bringing in, this next level of evolution, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It amazes me that you are able to, tell me all these different things and tell the audience all these cool things every month. she gives me cheat sheets, you guys, and you say inner and outer balance is the theme for October. We start out with this Friday where Mercury goes direct into Virgo. Watch for secrets to emerge. Oh my God. More
So
clarity.
Mercury, yeah, so to step back a minute, so Mercury finally went direct after 3 weeks.
Right.
And Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year for about 3 weeks each time. And that's probably the one thing in astrology, aside from maybe people knowing their sun sign and possibly their moon and rising sign, that people are aware of. When you say Mercury retrograde, it's like, because what happens is that regular third dimensional functionality, like technology, etc., appointments, all those earthly things don't function so well.
Okay.
And so we have a choice to get frustrated by it, but the better use of the energy is to use it to reevaluate what it is you're doing to begin with. So it's really a time of review. And
Well,
anything that begins with a re. So retrograde begins with a re, but review, recalibrate, redefine, redesign.
right. Well, I want to interject because I was sitting here this last month and I was trying to scan and my scanner would not work. I mean, it just wouldn't work. And I couldn't figure out, and it was driving me nuts. And then, like you said, it was interesting because then I realized, oh, wait a minute. The internet guy came and he changed my password. And
Ah,
what it was. And I had to here we go. I had to install, right? My
exactly.
exactly what
Perfect.
you're talking about. So I sat here and I was like trying so hard not to get angry. I'm like, this is crazy. I can't scan. Why won't it? And then I realized I had to redo it. Yeah.
And that's perfect. And in fact, anything, because I believe it was September 8th or 9th, I have to recheck that date when it went retrograde.
That's about when it was. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so crazy.
Right. And so what you want to do is sometimes people will change their mind when Mercury is retrograde, or vice versa. They'll be thinking one thing when it's direct, and then when it goes retrograde, they change their mind against it. Or they'll decide on something when it's retrograde, and when Mercury goes direct, they say, well, maybe that wasn't such a great idea after all.
Right.
So it's always worth re-asking or
Reiterating.
reiterating. Exactly. But it's not just that Mercury's been retrograde. There were like 5 planets retrograde. There still are. Like right now, as we speak, even though Mercury went direct on the 2nd, and today is what, the 5th,
Right.
only a few days later, it's still stationary. Retrograde means it's an apparent motion. So it means it appears to stand still in the heavens. And because it's standing still, it makes that energy stronger. So it's still basically not moving. It's moving a tiny, tiny bit, but not in its normal movement. But in addition to that, Pluto is stationary because Pluto is going to turn direct as well. And, on the 8th, which is just 2 days from now. So both of these energies are stationary, which is why it feels like things aren't happening.
Yeah, it still feels kind of like it's Mercury retrograde still because
It
they're all
does, yeah.
in retrograde, and that's what it is. Okay, that makes sense to me now. You say though we need inner and outer balance this year or for October, but very important this year in prep for eclipses and final Saturn Uranus connection. What does that mean?
So it means that October is a big month, as is November, because not only have all these planets been retrograde, and then one by one going to start moving forward as Mercury and then Pluto in a couple of days, and then Saturn toward the end of the month, etc. But which means that we've been more in a reevaluating time frame. So things in general have not been moving forward so much. But there are like major planetary combinations happening in the heavens. So the Saturn-Uranus connection is one of them. which has really been the signature aspect for all of 2021. And think back to 2021 with the whole COVID and vaccines and freedom and responsibility and divisiveness and, what changes and what doesn't change. And, are we conservative or are we going to move forward? How do we take what's been going, how do we take what doesn't work anymore from the past and bring it into the future is the big question. But it's a matter of keeping what worked from the past and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So that's a fine process that, we're still trying to master.
Yeah.
So these two energies connected 3 times in 2021. This is the 4th time it's connecting. So that is like right now as we speak, these planetary energies of Saturn and Uranus, they don't actually reach the same degree in minute, but they're at the same degree. So it's still bringing that energy to the fore, which is a revolutionary kind of energy at one level.
Yeah.
Last time this happened is when Saturn, Saturn and Uranus were in opposition in the, in the 60s.
Oh, it's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things really changed, was in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So this is a big deal,
A big deal. Okay, I didn't realize all this. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very big deal what's happening.
Okay. So I want to talk about Friday because I made notes. I was like, Mercury goes direct in Virgo. So watch for secrets to emerge around 10/7, that's Friday. More clarity, less foggy as it moves away from Neptune. So is this going to be globally? Is this just like everybody personally is going to find out the truth? I mean, talk to me about
Well, let's think of what's been happening. There was a hurricane, right? Water, lots of water. So
Yeah.
Mercury, not only being in its own sign in Virgo, because Mercury rules Virgo, has been opposite Neptune. Neptune rules water. So not only has that created confusion, it's literally created confusion. It's created chaos with Ian. I mean, the wind, if you think of this season of the year has a lot of wind energy.
Right.
And think of the wind, think of those images in Florida, how devastating that is. So
Right.
that's the energy of what's been going on. So it's been hard for people to know things like the clarity that we like has been clouded, or pulled in some direction.
So what you're saying is, I want to understand this. So this energy has been floating out there, and that's what hit Florida.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say that
But that's
definitively, but it's as above, so below, there it is some reflection of the energy, certainly all this Neptune. So what's happening each day moving forward now from the beginning of the month, the end of September. I know it's hard to believe we're already, I was going to say the end of August. No, it's the end of September. From the end of September, really up until now, is we've had this sort of cloudy energy. It's been hard to be really crisp about what we're doing or making things happen in the way we want it to happen. It's like we're trying to make things happen, but it's hard to make things happen.
Right.
So there's a helper energy that comes up on the 7th, which is Friday, which is that Mercury will aspect Pluto again. And Mercury Pluto means at least there'll be a chance to dig down deeper to get answers
to what's really going on. Okay.
Yeah. So when we say secrets are exposed, it's more about you getting to the bottom of things.
Got it.
Cut to the chase.
Got it. Okay. Then on Sunday, I think this is fascinating. You say full moon in Aries with Chiron opposite Venus. So old wounds may rise to the surface, especially those pertaining to self-confidence and how we show up in our relationships. Now, this is an interesting aspect.
It's very interesting. And really just to go back and reiterate what's happening right now is the October is really about being clear with self-love so that then we can treat people in the way they deserve to be treated.
Bingo.
Because Venus or Libra, which is the season we're in with the sun in Libra, and Mercury will be in Libra, and Venus is already in Libra, is all about the other. So anything other than ourselves is really what Libra is about. So it's finding that balance between everything else and ourselves. But Libra is the opposite of Aries. Aries is all about me. So you have to integrate the two poles of that opposition. So you got to bring the self into it, a strong self, in order to be able to really be able to bring to a relationship what a relationship deserves, and to be able to treat people properly.
Right.
So this is a big planetary lesson going on right now about how do we treat others?
Well, and how do we treat ourselves? I just want to talk a minute about this, because this is something I talk a lot about to all the guests, it seems like lately, have come on my show. No matter what the subject is, it always kind of falls back into we're working on ourselves and loving ourselves and caring about ourselves. They always use the analogy, you know, put your mask on first on the airplane before you put it on somebody else. And it goes back to that. We have got to take, and it's not vain. I've said this so many times. It's not
selfish either.
It's not selfish. You have to take care of you so you're good. Because if you're not good, then you're not going to be any good to anybody else. And you're not going to be good for anybody else. So this is like forcing us to go within, is what you're saying. And
totally, because all of the retrograde planets are all a more inner energy. So we've been, you know, not only have we been forced to go within by the planets, but also we are forced to go within between these major aspects that are happening, you know, this final Saturn Uranus, like what do we hold on to? What do we let go of? You know, where are we stuck in the past? What do we need to embrace in the future? And moreover, it's how do we find the balance of the two? So it's a balance of going in deep within and being able to come out and have a balanced relationship. So there's a lot of ands going on. Like how do we create ands?
Well, I know how to do it because I've been working on it, and it's living in the now. It's living in the present moment. And it's so, you have to make a conscious effort. And that's what I've been doing. And because when you live in the present and you don't think about the past and you don't think about the future, and I catch myself, man, I'm like, oh, no, go back to I'm in the present moment. I'm in the and it's literally reprogramming to stay in the present moment. But when you do, it's beneficial, because I believe, and I want to hear your feeling on this, when you think about the past, you think about the future, we're missing the opportunities that are right in front of us.
Exactly. And if you look at the opposition, Libra, sign Libra is opposite the sign of Aries. Aries is all about, it's about I am, it's the self, but it's all about the present moment. It's ruled by Mars, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So it's the yin and the yang, it's a balance. But even thinking about it like a seesaw, right? Two ends of a seesaw, and finding that balance. What's in the center? It's the fulcrum. It's that fulcrum point.
It's
so
the
we're trying to
present
find
moment.
that. Yes, exactly.
I got it. You guys got
that's the still point. And also, like the fulcrum is that still point. Like
right.
if you stood on the fulcrum, it wouldn't move. You know, the seesaw wouldn't move.
Right. Exactly. Oh, Claudia, I love it. Okay.
So what's important for this fall season, which is Libra season, which started with the equinox, the fall equinox on the 23rd. So what's important is being able to find that still point deep inside. And also this is the season of, in Chinese medicine, it's the season of metal.
Oh.
And metal rules the lungs and the large intestine. Okay. The metal element. And the lungs are all about what? Breathing.
Okay.
And what keeps you in the present moment?
Breathing.
Right. Because what's the balance? It's the in-breath and the out-breath. Like that's the innate balance that's intrinsic to who we are.
Right. Well, and you know, not to get into a whole nother deal, because I know we have lots to talk about today, but when you're in balance and you're in the center and you're still, that's when you connect to God, because, and that's when you get the messages, because your mind will come in and do and do and do and do. But when you're centered and you're not thinking about anything and you're quiet, it's that quiet time. That's when we connect.
Yeah. Connect to God and Mother Earth.
And Mother Earth.
Because we're here on the planet, so
Yes,
we need
yeah.
both.
Claudia's giving me a hard time about that. You know, I'm always up in the air. Got to get down back on the earth. So anyway, 1022, I want to talk about this. I wrote, wow. So I'm going to read this. This is crazy. So the sun and Venus. So forming a Venus star point in Libra, which hasn't happened for 143 years. Venus rules Libra, and she's dynamic here as the sun magnifies her powers. So we can experience significant relational occurrences now. Since love and harmony are stronger and more abundant, we're beginning a whole new cycle in romance, culture, values, art, and law that will last for 100 years, Claudia says.
Because
Wow.
we're entering a Venus and Libra cycle.
Okay.
I won't go into all the details of it, but whenever the sun and Libra connect, it's really interesting because they really form a star. You know,
Wow.
every 8 years they do this star thing in terms of their tracking, which is really interesting. And over the years, you know, the star sort of gets superimposed on each other, and it's called the Rose of Venus.
Okay. Well,
'Cause
that's
that's what it looks like. It's like in sacred geometry, it
yeah.
looks like the Rose of Venus, which is really interesting to think that, you know, just the motion of the planet Venus, you know, has this very specific motion.
I know, but it's the planet of love. And I've had,
Yeah.
you know, people on my show, especially, oh gosh, I can't think of his name right this second, but comes on and talks all about Venus, the planet of the love, and the energy and all the Venetians it's
Mhm.
that are down here on the planet trying to help us right now.
Mhm. Yes.
So cosmic,
Because this is a main transition time for planet Earth. And that's why it's so important to embrace this concept of balance with the inner and the outer. And, you know, the breath is an example, and balancing the Mars and the Venus, the yin and the yang, you know, all these forces. This is the time to really bring them into balance so that we can excel and move forward. So it's like pulling back an arrow, you know, we have to find that still point first so we can pull it back the arrow so we can shoot forward and catapult into the next level.
so when you talk about balance, I feel like we're talking about the balance between the spiritual and the material.
Yeah,
Mhm.
heaven and earth.
Heaven and earth being connected. See, and it's been so out of balance for so long that astrologically, the moon and the stars and the planets are bringing us back into balance.
Mhm.
That's what's happening.
And that's why I mentioned also how we treat others. You know, it's so important because we're not very good at treating other people well.
No, we're not. We're not.
And this is the lesson for the planet right now in a more global sense, in the collective, is, you know, people are being forced to treat others fairly.
Well, and yeah, don't get me started on that, because I just think it's been crazy what's been going on. There's no respect for anybody anymore. People don't
Mhm.
respect each other. We've lost respect for our human, you know,
Dignity.
yeah, I don't even know what's going on. It's just, it's really the crime. And I just want to ask this because there's been so much crime. And it's hitting home here where
All kinds of things, just the way people speak to each other.
yeah, and just, you know, people push by you. I was somewhere and I had something in my hand, and it used to be, you know, men were so, you know, courteous, and this guy just pushed by me like I was just, you know, another guy or something. And I thought, oh, how rude. You know, kindness and the hospitality and being cordial. I mean, is there anything in all of this that talks about that? Is that
Well, that's what I think this whole new Venus cycle is about. You know, this Venus and Libra cycle, I think it's going to really have an effect in
It-
terms of treating people better,
yeah,
as is the Saturn Uranus, because don't forget it's Saturn in Aquarius
mm,
versus Uranus and Taurus. So it's almost as if Taurus rules values. So it's as if we have to get our values clear
yeah, we
so
do.
that we can treat humanity, which Aquarius rules humanity as a whole. You know, so we can treat humanity the way it deserves to be treated, you know,
Right.
with respect.
Right? We don't respect each other. We don't respect. It's really gotten out of hand, and it needs to come back. It has to come back.
I mean, people would rather shoot somebody than have to negotiate with them.
I know. I was watching TV yesterday. I don't watch very often. I hit the news a little bit so I can see what's going on. And there was a gentleman. He had gone to his. I don't know if you heard about this. He had gone to his son's college. It was Parents' Day, and he was at like the Marriott in the wherever they were gathering, and a couple guys came in and they had shot him, killed him, no reason.
Really?
Yeah, it happened over the weekend. And it was like the guy, you can't go to Parents' Day at your kid's college anymore. You get
Yeah.
shot for
Terrible.
no reason. I mean, there were a bunch of people that were shot at. I don't know what the motivation was, but I just, a lot of it, and I don't know if you see any of this, and I just bring this up real quick, and I don't want to get off too much off the beaten path here, but a lot of these people that we see are mentally ill, and we closed down our mental institutions many years ago, which was a huge mistake. And so when you talk about the balance and you talk about things coming back, do you see, or I mean, there's so many mentally ill, we need to put them into a, I don't want to,
Rehabilitation facility.
yes,
Let's
yeah,
call it that.
yes. And is that, I mean, because this is part of this in my
Well,
mind.
it's all about values, like this whole Uranus and Taurus, it's really only in the midway through. So it's going to be there, for a while longer. And, it's like, what are our values?
Well, first of all, we should care for these people. Like I said, I don't want to get on a whole tangent, but first of all, we need to care for the mentally ill. We need to care for our own people. And
Mhm.
we don't. And that's the scary part. We're sending money all over the world and we don't care for our own people here in the United States who are mentally ill. It doesn't make any sense. We need to start caring for, I don't care where you are. Everybody needs to start caring for people who need it, the elderly, the mentally ill, the children. We need to care for each other. I mean, just as a whole, we need to care for each other.
Mhm.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah. Well, I think this new Venus cycle will help with that. I think this fall energy is significant as well. I think this last Saturn Uranus is bringing things to the surface so people can really see how out of balance we are as
Yeah.
a society, as a collective,
Right.
and the combination of all of this. The other energy that's significant is going to be because Mars is in Gemini, and Mars is going to be in Gemini for like 7 months. I mean, some ridiculous amount of time. And
What's that do?
part of that, hmm?
What does that?
Gemini is all about communication. So Mars in Gemini, which is going to go retrograde and back and forth, should help us hone our communication skills, so we at least can speak, in a way that people can hear us.
Yeah.
So that coupled with the Libra energy, which is negotiating.
Mhm.
Like we can't have debates anymore. We can't negotiate.
No, it's really crazy. I was on the debate team in school, and
Really? Oh, how cool.
yeah, I was a first affirmative, and I actually won trophies, believe it or not,
Wow.
because I'm a good debater. But you have to hear both sides of the argument, and that's what we've lost. We've
Mhm.
lost that, where you listen to this side and listen to this side, and then you form your opinion because you have heard
Mhm.
both sides of the argument, and that has been lost. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. How crazy. Um, 1023, the sun enters Scorpio. What does that? What,
Well, so now we've been in this Libra energy and we have, this whole principle of balance and treating each other well, which will continue because again, the Venus cycle will start. But Scorpio then brings it into the, into the depths, like, okay, so like, let's clear out all the dross of whatever's in the way of doing that.
wow.
So Scorpio is a energy that cuts to the chase. So it gets down to the nitty gritty. Scorpio rules sex, death, birth, transformation, all the biggies
Wow.
in life. Yeah. So it's like, okay, this is no nonsense now. Libra can be very polite and sweet, and Scorpio isn't, Scorpio is like, this is it, or we'll, cut your head off or something like that. Not so much, I know that's contradictory to what we're saying about learning how to treat people, but
Venus,
you
yeah.
get the idea.
Rewind real quick. I need to ask a question. So Venus is coming in. This is great because I've done shows on Venus. I know the Venetians are here. I know it's the planet of love. I know they're helping us. When this happens, it's a big deal. So if it comes in on the 22nd of October, 2022, which I love that's 2022. That's so weird. Okay.
Yes, isn't it? 10,
Yeah.
22, 22. I love that. That's good.
So when this love vibe comes in, how
Mhm.
long is it with us? How long is that aspect with us?
Well, then Venus is in the, sign, it's a Venus and Libra cycle. So that's what goes on, for a long time now.
So for like a year or two.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. So the loving, I mean, that's really important.
it's very important. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's in that interface too. So it's like really digging deep to see how you can be a better lover to people in general, lover to society, lover to yourself, lover to a partner.
yeah. Very nice.
And what does that all mean? And what's fair? Libra rules what's fair. Libra is all about the scales of justice. So it's very concerned about, me and you, and where's the balance there, which is
Yeah.
what fairness is.
Because the universe hasn't been happy with, because the universe, comes in and makes sure there is justice.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Divine justice.
Wow.
So correlating with the sun entering Scorpio and just following the sun Venus is this solar eclipse in Scorpio. So
Okay.
that's the other reason why October and November are big deal months, because we've got a new moon eclipse in Scorpio in October 25th, and then a full moon eclipse in Taurus, the opposite sign to Scorpio, November 8th. So what's November 8th?
Oh, is that when the election is?
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to say something. It just came to me, and this is from the Bible, but I want you guys to know that God said there will be signs in the stars, in the sun, in the planets. And if these aren't signs, I don't know what is. I just want to say on this partial, on these eclipses that you're talking about.
Well, even all of this, right? The Saturn, Uranus,
The
Venus cycle, the Mars and Gemini, these are all major signposts.
They are signs from God. I just want to say that because I want you guys to realize how big this is. So this eclipse will be visible from Europe and Asia. It's a south node eclipse. It involves a release that will facilitate a fresh start. You say, I like that. It's falling exactly conjunct Venus. This solar eclipse triggers transformation of our values and creativity while setting us on an entirely new relational path. So something big could really happen on 10/25.
It's possible. Something big can happen all through. I think it is happening. Something big is happening.
Oh, that's true.
Right. I mean, look at what's happening. It's already big. How much bigger can it get?
Well, and there's just been so much unrest. I just would like to see it over and the peace come, but it's all got to get worse before it gets better, huh, Claudia?
And Scorpio is all about transformation. It brings that transformational energy forward. I think we're going to have more clues with this aspect on Friday. which is building up to it. So it's really, the clues are here now in these few days with the Mercury trine Pluto, because Pluto is that energy of transformation. And I think it's going to let us know, like, what are the main things that have to change and how are they changing? And what is it that we haven't known about that we need to know about?
Well, and I want to throw something out there that I saw today come through on my phone, and I've seen it several times. A lot of different places, larger cities, I know this is happening in New York, are getting these warnings about a nuclear bomb hitting, like in case Putin or somebody does something. I'm not saying it could be Putin, it could be anybody, but they keep getting these warnings in these states. They're coming across their televisions. I haven't received it here in New Mexico. I don't know if you have where you are.
No,
But
I haven't.
I know it's coming across to New York and it's coming across to New Jersey. I've seen it. They're warning people and preparing people on what to do if a nuclear bomb is shot to us. Now, I just want to tell the audience, I don't think it'll ever, I know it won't happen because the Galactus won't let it happen.
Right. I was just going to say, I think that's
Yeah,
the job
number one.
now is protecting, and the angels.
And the
And
angels.
I
But,
think from my perspective, we have to keep praying
yeah.
for
But
that protection on this planet.
right, but I'm seeing this, and I've
Mhm.
heard about this, and I've seen it come through on my own phone, and I just wonder, it's a fear thing. It's like putting fear into the people of the United States. And when you're talking about all this stuff, it's almost like, and I don't know, I know you don't have all the answers, Claudia, although you're pretty sharp. It's almost like going from the fear to the love.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
what.
look what happened in Japan a few days ago, right? The ballistic missile testing from North Korea, which went right over Japan into the ocean.
Oh,
And all of the air raid sirens went off in Japan. And people had to go running to shelters.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that was like a literal thing that happened. Like they literally had to run to the shelters.
Well, and when they're telling people how to take cover and what to do, and it's on the TV, don't you think that's a little dramatic? I mean, why would these
Well,
things?
it's dramatic, but look what happened in Japan. I mean, it literally happened in Japan. It wasn't a nuclear missile, but nonetheless,
So,
a missile went flying over. I know, and who knows, I mean, Putin's threatening. I mean, again, hopefully these galactic forces are keeping it in check, and I'm sure they
well,
work hard to do that.
because, and I just want to tell the audience, they don't want to be affected by our stupidity.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through this in other times, right? In ancient times with
It's like, come on.
Lemuria, Atlanta, we've destroyed ourselves before.
Yeah. So I don't think they're going to let us do it again. We got to ascend first. Let me
But
out.
I do think this fear, the point you brought up about fear, it's not only this fear of getting these messages on the phone. Look at what it's touching off in the collective unconscious for anybody who's had past lives in other civilizations that were destroyed.
It's
It's
all
reactivating those fears.
Which means that we need to even be more connected to the divine and to the earth so that we do stay balanced, so that those fears don't overtake us.
And each other, and realizing that we're all here together.
Yeah, because we tend to take things out on each other,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones we love. All right, this is crazy. So now,
And disasters really, do bring people together, but we don't
want
want to. Yeah, we don't need that.
no. Well, so this solar eclipse that's gonna trigger transformation on 10/25?
Yeah, because it's in Scorpio, it's transformation. Again, it's a deep look within, because a South Node eclipse is more about, the inner aspect of it, versus next spring, when we'll have another eclipse, which will be the North Node eclipse, which is more of the outer energy. But there's a correlation between both of these eclipses, the one on 10/25 and the one on November 8th, that goes back to last spring, because we had two eclipses last May,
Yeah,
end of April and middle of May. So people can look at what was happening back then.
there sure have been a lot of signs. There sure have been a lot. I'll just say that. All right. Now on 10/28, Jupiter is back in Pisces. You see it's the third visit, which lasts through December 20th. And Jupiter brings work in Pisces to completion. Talk about this. You see Jupiter is very strong, compassionate. It'll open our hearts. We'll feel more peaceful, spiritual, empathetic, forgiving.
Exactly, you said it all. So it is bringing that element of compassion. Last time Jupiter was in Pisces, because Jupiter was in Pisces last, in 2021 for a pretty long stint. And that was when the war in Ukraine broke out, and there was a lot of compassion, like that activated our compassion
Right,
for
right.
the people of Ukraine. And it really made a difference, I think, on the, that was significant in terms of bringing compassion to the fore. And it still is, but then Jupiter was in Aries, so we went on to other things to some degree, but now it brings it back to bring the compassion to as another element in this cosmic scheme in terms of how do we treat others, how do we treat ourselves, because compassion starts with ourselves. We have to have compassion for ourselves as well, and
Before,
treat ourselves well, and then we can bring it out into the world.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Halloween, Halloween, dude.
what?
I said Halloween.
Halloween, I know, Mars goes retrograde in Gemini.
Like what? I was talking about watching Hocus Pocus too. Halloween 10/31. I was like, what? I'm gonna read this. Mars retrograde in Gemini at 25 degrees and will turn direct again on January 12th. What does all this mean? Talk to me about this. I won't read it all. I'll let you tell it all. What's the deal?
So again, it's like redefining the Mars energy. So don't forget retrograde, it's going backwards, it's bringing the energy inner. So when Mars is going through a retrograde period, it's like we can look at how do we use our Mars, how do we move forward? How do we use our anger? Are we involved in gossip? Or are we involved in significant communication? It's all about our communication skills and what it is we want to, not only what we want to communicate to others, but what are we thinking in our brain? Mars in Gemini, Gemini rules the mind. So when Mars is in Gemini, the mind tends to get overly active. So with an overactive mind, what are these thoughts that are running haywire in the circular reasoning? And it's about having to take charge of what you're thinking, really look at what are you thinking? What are you allowing yourself to waste energy on?
Well, yeah, and you say there's going to be arguments with relatives and acquaintances, that mental turmoil. So this is crazy on Halloween that this would happen.
Well, it's just bringing attention to all of that. It doesn't mean we're at choice. It doesn't mean that we have to fall subject to it, but the negative or the shadow side of it is going to be that gossipy, energy that's not polite. It's not a polite energy. And just not speaking to others properly, not thinking before you speak, letting words come out that are hurtful to other people. And because Gemini rules siblings, it rules relative, like cousins, those kind of relatives. It also rules acquaintances, it rules neighbors, it rules gossip. This is all the shadow side of it. The positive side of it is forceful communication and really learning how to communicate so other people can hear what you're saying.
And I love this because this is something I've been working on personally. I've been talking to the audience about it, and it's those thoughts that come into your mind. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show where you get these thoughts that are negative or from the past or from the future, and you've got to stay in the now. And you're like, where did this thought even come from? I haven't thought this in forever. And it's like you have to almost, well, you do. You have to retrain your mind to when a negative thought comes in, that you change it to a positive thought, and that you do stay in the present moment. The biggest thing is really to stay in the present moment, because when you do, then
Exactly.
those negative thoughts that come from the past, like, oh my God, like something will trigger. Oh, I remember that. And it was a bad thing. Well, you either need to change it to a positive thought immediately, or you need to just watch it go by, observe it, be an observer, and let it go.
Exactly.
And it's
Well, it's that old adage, like a computer, garbage in, garbage out,
yeah,
people liken the mind to a computer, right?
yeah,
So it's like, garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So you want to shift that energy. You want to rethink
yeah.
or redo or reconsider.
I just find it interesting. I've been working on this, talking to the audience about this, and then here you are telling that we all need to do this. So it really hits home. I mean, and it's not easy, by the way.
None of this is easy. Nothing we've talked about today is easy. We're not in an easy time frame, but yet there's so many gifts that can come out of this time frame. Like it's really an evolutionary leap for mankind. We just have to stay steady and on course.
Well,
Stay
right,
conscious.
right. It's an evolutionary leap because we have to become a kinder, more loving, compassionate society. We just do. Or we'll
And
destroy.
Scorpio is the energy of unity. So it's like the word, what you go through is going to affect what I go through. What one country goes through is going to affect what other countries go through. Like we're all connected. It's really getting it that we're all connected.
Yeah, as the world gets bigger, it seems to get smaller, if that makes sense. Because gosh, Claudia, this is a lot of information. I want to thank you for coming on and talking about all this stuff today. What would you like to leave us with?
Mainly to stay centered, use whatever tools that you can find. Breathing is a fantastic one. Just taking that time to stop and become aware of the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath is free, something we can do at any time. And it's helpful. It helps keep you in the moment. Another tool that it's very helpful and shifts the energy is gratitude.
Yeah.
So if you can take a moment to just find something that you're feeling grateful for, that will shift the energy quickly. Both of these, consciousness over the breath and gratitude will shift energy.
Yeah, and I just want to say about the gratitude thing. I've been waking up in the morning. I've learned, it's taken me a few years, but I now get up and say thank you for the warm bed. I was able to, and thank you for my house, and thank you for the food that I have. And I was watching somebody bless their food, and they were talking about how it tastes different when you bless it, and just different little things that you can do. Like you said, the breathing, it doesn't cost anything. It's just doing those little symbolic things that can help you, move forward and change the energy. Like you said, gratitude.
Exactly.
Be grateful for the small things, just the little things in life.
They're tools. And right now we need to be aware of our toolbox. Like what's our toolbox? What do we have that's there to help us in a, snap of your fingers when you need it.
Right. The biggest thing I can say is connect with the divine too. Be grateful. And I love what you said. I love that. It's true. It totally shifts the energy. Claudia, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Nancy. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. Her website is discoveryourimprint.com. That's where you can find her. If you'd like a psychic reading, go to my website. I'm still doing them, you guys. If you need an angel reading or a psychic reading, you want some messages, just go to my website, nancyyearout.com, and you can book your date and time. Claudia Trivelas, we will see you next month in November 2022.
Okay.
All right. Everybody take care.
Thanks.
To humanity. You're welcome. Everyone take care. God bless.
Please join me next time on The High Road with stories full of love and hope for our future. You can find High Road to Humanity on TogiNet Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now watch The High Road on Binge TV networks. My channel is High Road to Humanity. Have a blessed week, and know by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. For a psychic empath reading, visit my website, nancyyearout.com, to book your date and time with me. I will deliver your messages from the angels, and God bless.